Greetings, comrades. Greetings, comrades, and welcome to the Eastern Border. I bet that for the past 24 to 48, I don't know how many hours, people have been trying to explain it to you what Putin exactly meant in various ways, or forms, or whatever, in response to Tucker Carlson's interview. I'll just call him Tucky. Tucker Carlson sounds way too complicated for my Latvian ear. Like Tucker Carlson. Too many Carls. Nobody cares. Same as nobody really cares what Putin meant. If you want to know what he meant, I'll tell you. He didn't mean anything. See, I was there. I was there with my Discord. All of it. We were there for the whole 2 hours. 127 minutes to be exact. And we waited for the moment for it to start to make some sense. And it never did. And it just never did. But before I get to that, I first of all have to mention that we had some difficulties, technical issues with Victor before, posting this episode. And the links that I should have posted in the last episode, they're going to be in this one. Please do support Victor's charity and his work in Ukraine. It's super important to me. And I've gotten emails about how people actually have started crying at work and how it's impacted them. And I never even thought about it that way. But wow, guys. And this episode is not going to be like that one. It's not as emotional, but please support what Victor is doing. Please support what Victor is doing because that means the world to me. But currently, this one's going to be about the Tucker Carlson and Putin interview. And the biggest issue is the fact that if I would go down through every lie that Putin makes systematically, it would take me about 9 to 10 hours, because Putin makes about 3 factual mistakes in every sentence he creates. He cherry picks horribly, like misrepresents facts, basically lies about a bunch of things, but he lies by omission even more. But the biggest issue with him is the fact that even then, Putin is unable in this interview to put 3 sentences together to make a narrative. He's just unable to say anything. So I just thought how this would have been from Tucker Carlson's perspective. And we were there. We were like about 40 people in my Discord, which you should, by the way, join. Oh, and the second thing, we found out that there's a place in Riga which sells Soviet maps. Soviet military maps taken from military bases of all the world. Topographical maps and some city plans of some are from 65, some are from 49 before satellites, all the stuff. So if you want to know how Soviets looked at your place where you lived and, how much nukes they probably would have allotted to kill your ass, then here you go. You can have one of these maps. Just join our Discord and message Evita, because she deals with this stuff. Because now I can have maps and of course support the other charities. But about the discussion, I intentionally spent some time just not commenting on this, because again there were like 40 people online there. Well, at times in total, basically on average it was 25, but people just came and went all the time. And by the way, now I have Dutch journalists here in Latvia, and I have to figure out how to make calls for them. But no one seems to understand that like in the West, people are at least going like, what the hell was that? And I'll tell you what. In Russia, they're trying to literally invent the most bizarre excuses on this, say how he's going to teach history and whatnot. But the truth was, he's just an old senile man. That's how he operates. This is who Putin is. To those of you who watched the interview, that's who Putin is. This is who represents this Russia. This is who Russian world is. That's their leader. There is no other Putin. But okay. I just thought that I will not go through all the lies because there are like so many. Let's just start with the fact that, for example, talking about Zelensky's dad bravely fighting Nazis, although Zelensky's dad was born in 1947, right? And just omitting Holodomor, and just totally lying about the whole city-states of Rurikovic. I mean, he lied in things that, like, if you teach them to an eighth grader, right? Then that would be like basically okay-ish, kind of, but not really. But that's a president, and the fact that he speaks like that, well, he does that all the time. That's what his propaganda does, like constantly. This is how he operates. But I just thought, again, and I'm sorry about the confusion. It's very late here, and I tried to just figure out how to present this because I had to make an episode on this. Even after, watching the whole thing and then trying to make a coherent something out of this. But I just thought about this way. Think about when you're Tucker Carlson, right? And now, I don't know much about Tucker Carlson, but it doesn't really seem like he's the best dude ever, since apparently even Fox decided to get rid of him. Now, I don't know, United States politics. But from the questions he asked, he didn't ask about Bucha. He didn't ask about Russian daily casualties they do on civilians. And with my deepest respect to guys who might love Tucker Carlson, he really didn't do his best. He did ask two very specific questions, which is cool. Because again, I do have to remind myself that that's Tucker Carlson. He got the interview because Putin loves him. But it's all a mess. And let me just get you through the whole point, how everything went, how I see it at least. Because nothing about this interview is simple, and it's all super funny, and it's kind of like one of those semi-tragical Disney movies from the 30s, to be honest. Because, well, it's kind of not a farce, not a tragedy, yet it's both. So, okay, how I see it from here. Tucker Carlson is no longer in Fox News. Don't know why. Like I said, I'm busy, being poisoned and whatnot, right? Don't really care why either. But I know that he's not there. And he's super popular because he's a massive friend of Putin's. And he's been paid a lot of money to go there because Putin finally wants to get out of his isolation and, just show the world that no, it's not true that the world is, ignoring him, that he's just a pariah. And Tucker is trying. Tucky's trying really, really hard. Tucky's asking softball questions. He's not even like doing anything that's he's probably even like settled down the questions beforehand with Putin and everything. But it doesn't work. You could see in Tucker Carlson's face how he tried his best to literally stuff his tongue as deep into the soles, and I'm being polite here, of Putin's shoes as possible. He tried to lick every nook and cranny of Putin's soles, but he couldn't just do it because he was told, agree to everything, say yes, Putin is telling the truth, agree, it is how it is, it's gonna be fine. But the problem is that, Tucker Carlson asks a question, then Putin gives an answer, and the answer is so nonsensical that you don't even understand what to agree with, which part of all the things, because Putin makes three factual mistakes in a single sentence, and then he cannot even gather three sentences together. So Tucky obviously, by his face, gets more and more confused because he simply does not realize to which part he's supposed to agree with. He would love to. He would love to be a total psychopath and earn more money. He would love nothing more than ask softball questions and be the biggest bootlicker the world has ever seen. But the problem is he simply does not understand to what, because these are non sequitur sentences. They make no sense. They form no narrative. They only have issues. Each separate sentence has 3 errors in it and lies. And then at one point, what I like the most is what I like the most is the moment when Tucker understands that, oh no, it must be some plan, because Putin had been speaking about documents all the time. Besides the letters of Bogdan Khmelnytsky, which also contain, stuff that also discredited Putin, but whatever. Basically, I understood at one point, after all this despair, after suffering through insane amounts of just look at Tucker Carlson's face, which is a meme at this point, right? Tucky, I think, he thought he could do this because he was a smart American man. He knows how to sell out to the max. Oh, he doesn't know anything. He needs some logic. Well, the trick is, then he decided that, oh, wait. All this nonsense talking around, all this history, he must have some documents to show me, some evidence. And I just remember this fact about how Tucker Carlson asks, which would seem like a reasonable kind of question, the only hardball question we saw, but it was just meant as a desperate gamble, as an attempt to maybe, give Kremlin a chance so that Tucker could lick their souls and worship Putin, but even that didn't work out. What he said, okay, you have these evidence of all these Ukrainian crimes and everything that has happened and all this. Why don't you just present them? And then he thought maybe this rambling about history and all this was just like a very long introduction, very long kind of preparation for everything. And now Putin's going to show to the world how he's outsmarted everyone. And then Tucker will see the documents. And then he's going to be like, aha. And then he could, with honest heart, just say that, here it is. Here's the proof. Here's everything I need to know. I will support Putin from now on. But then nothing happens. Another 3 sentences of total nonsense just happen, and everything continues as before. Oh, let me remind you that immediately after an interview ended, Tucker Carlson left Moscow. There was also fire there. And I just imagined how over there were some people who were just confused. But you got to understand here, Tucker Carlson, and I'm just using him as an example here. No matter how corrupt the Western journalist, no matter how much he's sold out, he at least needs to understand what he's talking, what his idol is talking about to be able to be fully psychopathic. Russian propaganda have outlived this completely. Russian propaganda no longer even care. It's just that it is yes man. It is being a yes man to the nth degree. What do you mean you need to understand something? What do you mean the leader needs to make sense? For you guys, it was something new. For me, I watch this stuff 4 to 6, 8 hours a day. Putin talks like this all the time. Putin's propaganda uses arguments like this all the time. If you hear any more reasonable arguments, that's because your Western translators, they are not culturally trained, so they don't understand what's going on, so they try to make some sense of this. But no. This is exactly how Putin talks constantly. This is the level of the Russian world. There's nothing deeper in it. There's a senile man throwing out nonsense and, pechenegi and 9th century nonsense when anyone asks him about anything. This is what Putin does. That's it. This is the mastermind Putin. And even more miserable than this whole situation was the fact that they didn't even try to kind of delete the situation. If I was the Russian government, I would try to make sure that no one ever found out about this this interview or whatever happened there. But no. War Gonzo, one of the Z channels, even stated that it was intentional that Putin broke through the young Americans' worldview with history. It is as if he wanted to say to the Americans, you should better learn history before interrupting yourselves in our affairs. No, it wasn't a master plan. It was a senile man who can't put 3 sentences together. And I'm really glad he really didn't put up biolabs out there, because I just imagined how his team went no biolabs, Mr. Putin. Just please don't mention the biolabs. You have few people you could possibly talk to about this, but none of them will love biolabs. But I want to know biolabs, please. We allowed you to write your own speech. Please, no biolabs. They probably had to time down. I don't know. I mean, this is how Solovyov talks. This is how Simonyan talks. This is how everyone in Putin's government talks constantly all the time. There is no deeper thought beneath this. This is it. And then you sit from this, and then you try to understand what's going on. And if you've been listening to this show, then please understand that this is like if you compare Igor Girkin, who's now in prison for 4.5 years, to this, then you can understand that I was telling you the utter truth and facts when I told you that if Russian government would switch and start listening to Igor Girkin, we'd all be screwed. Because Putin does not live in the real world anymore. He has fully bought on his propaganda. He believes his own shit. He just exists there. For him, it's just some sort of a game of historical figures, and this 8th century, 9th century nonsense bullshit means something to him. And I'd like you to contrast and compare this to what it means today to other people like Victor, like myself, like people who die. Because this one dude has some sort of idea that he has some historical fucking claims. And NATO expansion, yeah, how about Sweden? How about Finland? Russia has always been nice to Ukraine. How about Holodomor? And the fact that Poland cooperated with Nazis to conquer Czechoslovakia, I could go through lies upon lies upon lies upon lies, but I just know one thing. I just know the fact that China got access to this interview one day before we all did, because this interview, when it was launched, it was 2 days old. So day 1, Tucker Carlson gets the interview. Day 3, it's released. You know what happened in day 2? The main Chinese bank, the biggest one, cut all ties with Russia and Belarus. And it was funny, therefore, to listen to how Putin calls China their all kind of biggest hope and allies and all this whatnot. Because it also made no sense to whom this speech was oriented. To Russian kind of people who buy into all these conspiracy theories. Well, they've heard this all along. This is the only thing he talks about. It was predictable. Internal market already knows everything he's going to go for. People who are pro kind of, people who want to understand Putin, who are pro-Ukraine, well, they saw a senile man who just evades questions, cannot answer any question, honestly, whatever. Evangelicals, he even managed to offend Christianity at the end. He managed to denigrate, he managed to really offend Christianity by literally proving that Russia is a death cult. And if you didn't see this whole thing until the end, I did, together with people on Discord. At the very end, he tries to prove the fact that Russians and Ukrainians are the same people by the fact that Russian squad of 50 people have surrounded Ukrainian squad of 10 people, and the 10 people Ukrainian squad screams, "Russians never surrender." Like the famous merde. And then they all die. And he presents all people dying and, being ready to die all the time as a glorious thing. And he mentions that is a specific Russian thing. Like he didn't even think about the fact that maybe being a death cult is not a good thing. So that kind of sucks. Then he managed to trash God's name in vain by stating that all religions have the same essential meaning there. He managed to offend evangelicals. He managed to offend Muslims, Buddhists, and Christians. He managed to offend everyone with a reasonable mindset. He managed to basically lie about the economy, lie about everything. There's one thing though, which Russian opposition, namely Michael Katz, stated that maybe Russian kind of, I don't know, not even Russian, American super pro Putin side would find out. Like, well, he was able to sit down and talk for 2 hours straight. Yeah. And that Mikhail Katz is not sure if Biden could do that. That's it. I don't go and sit down and talk for 2 hours straight because scripts that long are too tiring. This wasn't even a speech. This wasn't even this is why he never participates in any debates. This is why he only does pre-made everything. He had a chance and he blew it completely. And the fact is that Mikhail Kalashnikov and all the conspiracy theory guys honestly believe that he was totally correct about all this stupid nonsense about CIA organizing Maidan and the fact that how elites organize everything. Like, one thing though is like what I found out the most jarring is the fact that he really does not believe in democracy and elections. When he said third tour of presidential elections in Ukraine, he meant actually parliamentary elections, because there were two tours of presidential elections. It doesn't. Dismantling this is too much time and effort. I won't do that. Putin's a senile man. He can't put 3 sentences together, and my reaction is on Tucker Carlson's face. Tucker Carlson thought he was the master of manipulation and shock jocking and laying like right into what's demanded from him. And then he understood that he needs some sanity. After all, he's a man from the West. He couldn't bear it. His face alone is a meme. I mean, and this is it. Like if you support this Russian world, then you support this guy who rants like that, who takes no responsibility for his words or actions, and I don't blame him anymore. Because again, sorry, but and this is a response, direct one, to Mr. Katz, who says, at least Putin can sit down and speak for 2 hours. Yeah, well, at least Mr. Biden, as far as I know, can put at least more than 3 sentences together in a way that they make sense, instead of making me cry whenever I try to kind of pierce through together what Putin was trying to say, because he didn't even try to say anything, and this is with all the softball questions. I mean, there's no point. There's literally no point of analyzing anything said in this speech. To those of you who listen to my show, you know already everything that wasn't there. You know all the standard stereotypes, you know all the lies, you know it's all bullshit, you know that there were no facts, no evidence. You know all this stuff. To those of you who don't know, well, congratulations, this is how Putin speaks all the time. It's always like this. It's always this stupid nonsense. And if someone just decides to just tell you that, oh no, this was some sort of 4G chess, no, it wasn't. No, this was not some 4D chess. This was a senile old man who should have retired a long time ago. And that's about it. We need better leaders these days. We need better leaders for EU, for the United States, for Russia, for everyone. We need better leaders in general. Because how long will we sit down and allow this to happen? And this is a jab in the United States. Yeah, this is my first jab out there. Because Putin's about 70 or something. And I'm not a fan of Trump. But Biden's like, what, over 80 as well? I'm sorry, guys, but maybe you should pick your candidates, let's say somewhere in the 50s, 60s maybe? With experience and something. I'm just looking at Putin. I'm just thinking that this is wrong. Putin's evil and weird, and what if some other leader gets like weird? And Xi Jinping, how old is he? Like I'm 34, right? And I'm considered young, immature. I can't even get into a political party. And I'm sorry. Speech is meaningless, but maybe we should start electing younger candidates. Because this right now, current political situation in the world globally, is starting to remind me of the one that was happening just before Gorbachev. Because before Gorbachev was elected, there was Stalin in the USSR, Stalin, Brezhnev, Andropov, Chernenko, and they all were people who had fought in the Red Revolution. They all had just waited for their hour of shiningness or whatever, right? And they just had waited and waited and waited. So they all, were super, super old when they got to the office. And they couldn't even fucking work properly. And second thing is that it's now to me obvious that no, man, no dictator is sane at all. The weirdest part is that, I thought that we're gonna have like a rough time if Russia falls apart. It's gonna be horrible with all these things. Right now I honestly think that the worst case scenario for Russia is if we somehow force it to sign a peace deal and just contain it in its current borders and do whatever we can to keep Putin in power. If you want to really, really, truly, completely destroy Russia, that is what you do. That's way worse than splitting it up in ethnic states or something, dismantling its colonial empire. Making sure Putin's in power for as long as possible, just, disarmed, and with enough to bash some protests. Yeah. Seems weird to me. And finally about Tucker Carlson. He's worse than a sponge. And Ben Shapiro even told that he handled the situation well. Well, Ben Shapiro has never even seen how a real journalist works like, I suppose. I don't know. Please, someone email Ben Shapiro that I would like to talk to him about what real journalism is. And it's not about his political views. I even agree with some of those because I'm a centrist, as you all know, but this was miserable. And yeah, Tucker Carlson, I know it's hard to ask hard questions when you're being, threatened, but to never even try it. Then again, he was too confused. He couldn't even agree with properly as well. I'll give you a proper history election of Ukraine and Russia one day when this is over. But yeah, man. Out of journalism points, and I do believe that I have the rights to give them out. Tucker Carlson, you get 2 out of 10 for this, and 1 for smiling and not saying, what the fuck's going on by just your face. And number 2, getting out of Dodge while getting out was good. That's it. Everything else was shit. Interview was garbage. Putin failed at everything. If anyone wants to support him, just show him quotes from the interview and we're done with it. That's about it. Tomorrow I'm with my Netherlands guests because I have people from Netherlands who want to interview local Russians and it's about local European politics. But that's it for today. Thank you guys, and I don't even know. Please donate to the charities of Victor. Please join our Discord. Oh, we're going to have an interview with Daniele Bolelli very soon as well. And please support the show. I know the economical situation is not doing that well. Our Patreon's really fallen down at the worst possible time. But, it is what it is. At any rate, thank you all. And remember, happiness is mandatory. Sometimes happiness just turns a bit farcical. Toby and Putin. Just hilarious.